research-based, stem back to childhood and childhood trauma, childhood experiences. Oftentimes thinking about anybody that was addicted to a substance and that partner, family member, sibling, best friend that kept giving the money or kept giving the drugs because the person is begging. And what we know to be true research-wise about folks that are in these relationships where they're codependent, right? They need to be needed, or need to take care of somebody, or need to put somebody before them, is that they oftentimes, research-based, have watched that in their childhood. Now, when those relationships happen and it's not so codependent, there's some equity and responsibility and exchange of needs in a real way, they can be successful. But it's hard to get some of your needs met when the person you love is behind bars.
My name is Jessica Jones. Marshall and I met in prison, actually. I was recreational leader for New Lisbon Correctional Institution in 2019, and he was the first person that I spoke to. He asked me who I was, and I told him I was Miss Christensen. I was the new recreational leader. And he was like, oh, well, then we had a very pleasant conversation, and just me being a normal person, I stuck my hand out and said, it's a pleasure to meet you. And he goes, I can't touch you. I was beginning to experience some negativity from fellow staff, and I was put under investigation, and ultimately I ended up being fired for not passing probationary standards. I was walking away from my termination interview, and I remember stepping off this curb, and I audibly heard, "Write him." And I know it was the Holy Spirit that said, "Write him." And there was only one person I would write, and that was Marshall Jones.
I am Roberto Hernandez.
I'm Darcy Hernandez.
We were dating before I went to prison. I mean, I was home on house arrest is when I met Darcy. So I was home almost 2 years, a little over 2 years, I think it was. And then I went to prison.
So I came in not in the chaos of the life he was living, but in the chaos of fighting the case for the life that he lived.
I was friends with her cousin on Facebook. We were commenting on the same string. And I think I added her or requested her. She denied me a couple times.
I thought, who's this weirdo Facebook stalking me? But eventually...
Who's this good-looking weirdo?
I couldn't tell. You had a stupid profile picture that wasn't you. I finally accepted him, realizing we had mutual friends. I called him. I was like, hey, what are you doing? So do you want to meet me? I'll go meet you today. He's like, yeah. And we literally sat in the backyard on the porch swing type things. We sat there for 4 hours talking, just straight talking.
I'm Mary Ann Olson.
I'm Eric Olson. I'm her husband.
Well, we actually met when I was 13 and he was 11. He was my brother's friend. And our paths crossed for several years. More than 30 years ago, they crossed again. You know the term, do the time. My time did me. I struggled going in with abandonment issues. I was given away at birth. I expected him to leave because for years I was told I wasn't even worthy of my own first name, much the less someone like him.
My name is Beverly Walker.
And I am Baron Walker.
We started talking more seriously when we were 13 and 15, so I probably was 12 and he was 14 at the time that we first started talking and being friends. I've always been pretty loyal, so I knew I was in for a long haul, and I actually didn't know what that meant, and I didn't understand the sentence structure at all. And my mother was crazy about Baron, so she was just like, you know, sometimes in life you just got to make sacrifices, so you just really have to decide if this is the sacrifice you're going to make. And if it is, then you just pray to God for strength. And I used to be like, wow, okay, all right.
My name is Kaylee Atkinson. I was living in Santa Fe, New Mexico, and I was bartending, and this very mysterious, good-looking man walked into the bar. Life was really great. Like, we would just hop in his truck and drive anywhere and just be immersed in nature, play music, go camping. It was really beautiful and really special. He was living in his car, which to me wasn't a red flag or crazy, because when I've traveled all over the world, I've wanted to be a van person. It turns out he was actually a fugitive with a nationwide manhunt on his name. We were driving back to Milwaukee because I wanted to get some stuff out of storage. We got to Kansas and got pulled over in the middle of the night. When it came time to separate, the cop came back and gave me all my stuff and said, "You're free to go. He's getting locked up for 5 to 15 years. Do you want to leave your information?" So I wrote my name and number down. He said he was going to give it to him, and then I got back in the car and just kept driving back to Wisconsin. I had no idea what to do. The cop did not give him my information. He threw it away, and that was when my rage and advocacy began.
My name's Kaden Watford.
And I'm Ashley Chavez. Well, we met in prison.
Yeah, we managed to Cheetah. When I got out, it was like I made it like a month and then I relapsed. She was calling me, couldn't get a hold of me, and I told her that I overdosed. Caught a bunch of really reckless charges and came back to prison. I went to Metro, she got out, and then when I got out, I took my time when I got out.
Sure did, and I was not happy about that because I was like, we had all these plans when we were in prison. We were gonna get out, we were gonna do this, we were gonna go here, we were gonna be together, we were gonna get married, we were gonna build a family. And he came home and he like...
I wasn't ready.
Was doing treatment. And
yeah.
Our brains are phenomenal. Let me start there. And in trauma and in all things life, our brain configures things to make it make sense for us, to make the brain and the spirit and the heart kind of align. If I love this person, it only makes sense for me to go towards them, right? Or if I've committed 6 years to them, I've had 6 years to make up what it would be like if they were here. I have no clue if this person takes the garbage out, or if they like Marvin Gaye, or if they want me to be a cook, how they are when they're going through financial issues, or work is too hard, or a loved one is sick. I mean, you know based on the conversations on the phone, but you don't know behaviors. Behaviors have to walk in line with what it is you said you was gonna do and be. And no human is perfect. It helps the incarcerated person as well get through the time to have these shared fantasies. There's nothing stronger than that trauma bonding right there. Our fantasies is dope, right? We talk about all kind of things we're going to accomplish together. And I know they love me. And sometimes when that person is a returning citizen and they cannot play out the fantasy, but the other person is in gear to be in the role of the fantasy, sexually, financially, spiritually, emotionally, whatever.
It became my life to fight for him rather than me enjoying my life at all. I didn't have any sort of fun. I didn't have any sort of joy. I woke up and I got my work done that I needed to, and then I would fight his case. And the only thing that like made me happy or sparked that joy was getting that 202 phone call.
There were times that I'd be sitting here and I'd go, whoop, just to make sure I still spoke, just to make sure my voice still worked, because I ain't talking to nobody. I'm not doing shit. I'm not going out. Nothing. But that phone, I'm always making sure that I hear that phone ring, because that's him. And everybody knew, everybody in my life knew. When I answered a call from Robert, the rest of the world was gonna stop. That was it. And I told him, as much as I love you, you might have been in the middle of like a serious moment. I'm sorry. He's calling in 30 minutes when the person you were talking to, and it's about to, I can't even remember how she says it, but I remember her voice when she's telling you that your call is gonna end.
Securus. Yeah.
Inmate at Fox Lake Correction. All calls other than properly placed attorney calls may be monitored and recorded. You may begin speaking now.
Hi.
Hey, baby, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
When she decided to write me, and I got that letter on December 16th of 2019, it really changed my life forever. And I realized that I had a really, really good friend here. You know, I didn't know what we was going to be. I just knew I wanted her friendship, and we started writing each other and emailing each other, and then phone calls came, and then ta-da, we're in a relationship, and 4 years later, you know, we're married happily. So.
And once he was in prison, I was able to see the transformation and the changes that he made. Because I was forced to make changes, and the only way that I felt like we could have a relationship is if he made those changes too. And so I was able to see those changes with his determination in getting into these programs, doing well in these programs, and doing everything the judge told him to do. He was able to teach me a lot about DOC and about, you know, the things that were going on in DOC and some of the things that were happening in the prisons, and it kind of stuck with me because I felt like, wow, who cares about, you know, these people? So it really helped our relationship because I can relate to him.
Oftentimes that bond or trauma bond or that unique thing we have together because we're both fighting for your return or innocence or happiness is very rare. It's very rare because you initially and ultimately want your partner to feel loved and heard and seen and desired. And so sometimes you slack on all the things you need trying to make sure that that happens. It's heavy, but I'm not going to say that there aren't relationships that don't have to be codependent. I think they have to be extremely structured with boundaries and mutual respect in an extremely mature way. Love is not enough to make a relationship work.
I went to Kansas every single court day, and he stands in front of you for 5 minutes during the court hearing, and that's it. You turn around and say, I love you, and then that's it.
You drove back down to Kansas for those?
Mm-hmm. Every single court date.
How many was it?
At least 4. But then I went down for visits too sometimes. We only had 2 visits. We only had 2 in-person visits for the entire 3-year sentence. And it was all between the plexiglass with the phones, like what you see in the movies. And since I came so far, I got an extra 30 minutes one time, and that's it. And we would get yelled at for laughing. I remember seeing him in those Kansas visits, and he just, like, the light was gone in him. He wasn't him anymore. And his fear was always, you won't love me who I am anymore. I'm not the same man I was in New Mexico. And I just was like, that's not true. You know what I mean? I was like, I was so in love with this person and this idea. I was in love with the idea of this person, not this person.
When we first met, there was no plan of a relationship with him beyond friendship. So when it developed into that, it caught me off guard because my life was stopped. I worked, you know, all the stuff you need to do continued, but social life, all that, and I was in my 20s, you know, like I could have been out. I wasn't. I was not. All that stopped and got put on hold because of the commitment that I had with him.
She didn't want to be my girlfriend. She said, when you come home, I want to be your wife. Okay. Well, how do we do that?
So when I came out of prison, I worked and I had 2 different relationships. My second one was with a man, and I had birth control in because I did not want kids. 30 years old coming out of prison. I'm like, this is not for me, but like, I don't know what it was. Something in me changed and I took that birth control out. Within a week, I was pregnant, but our son lives with us. Mm-hmm. He named our son when I was 17 weeks pregnant.
Yeah.
So
Kason.
Kason.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's how it happened. And
I call him our baby daddy. I don't know if he likes that very much, but we have a beautiful baby boy that's about to be a year, which is a blessing. Mm-hmm. Very grateful for that. Before Ashley, I never really expected to have kids because I'm trans, and I never wanted to actually give birth myself because of like dysphoria stuff and like my mental health already being pretty precarious. I mean, like when I was getting put in the turtle suit to when I was in Monarch to when I was doing better, you know, she's always been there to hold space and yeah, patiently wait till I got it together.
I was sentenced to 7 years of incarceration, followed by 21 years of extended supervision. I was granted ERP, so I did 5 years, 7 months.
Learning to take care of things on my own, not having the support of the spouse, so to speak. Okay, I'm doing this on my own, and plus then I also have to try to take care of her down there. Support was not there. I had a lot of that from my family. Just, oh, well, you can't do this. You got to get a divorce. This ain't gonna work out. And I just like, why? Why wouldn't this work? She's not gonna be there forever. I come from a old school family. My parents were married till my dad passed away, so it was, whatever happened to old death do you part, better or worse. That was my frame of thought anyways.
We had 2 marriages. The first marriage was an Afrocentric marriage with our vows and everything. And so, of course, the DLC wouldn't recognize that. And so we got married again and took them the paperwork, and they would not acknowledge it.
It's a ceremonial thing, and African proverbs meant nothing to the DLC. I wanted, if something had occurred, I never wanted her to be denied as my wife, so I went through the legal procedures or what have you. So we had the documentations or whatever, and so if ever in question, we had that she could not be denied her right as my wife. I had mentally prepared myself to deal with my everyday incarcerated, so I can deal with the incarceration. Being in a relationship, it wasn't just me, so I was always concerned about her. Like when holidays come along, it was something I can deal with, but now I'm wondering how she's gonna deal with a Valentine's Day, and her friends are going on dates and dinners and receiving gifts and what have you, and having company, and she doesn't have that intimacy, so that always bothered me, that, I might just get to visit, and it's for an hour or 2 hours or what have you, and then she has to leave and go home, So I always felt like that she would be home lonely and hurt and have more crying nights and days because of these situations.
We used to have visits to where we had 3 officers just staring at us like we were like a chicken cooking on a rotisserie. Like they were licking their chops hoping that we did something wrong so they could be like, aha. Seeing the hatred in their eyes and really feeling the effects of racism, was one of the most difficult things we've encountered.
We have people that look at our relationship now as a testimony on what they wish they had. And I have a lot of people that reach out to me and they encourage me and tell me, keep doing what you're doing because it is beautiful what you guys have. And they have their spouse or their partner right next to them, and they don't have what we have. And we are truly blessed.
The good thing about starting in prison is that we had to find our passion in a different way. We couldn't find our passion through sex or being intimate in like a physical way. And so we had to be creative, and yeah, our communication was like, and I'm being super transparent, hopefully you don't get pissed about me doing this, but if I'm being super transparent, our communication now that we're like here and life is moving so fast is like nothing like it was when we were still incarcerated.
Well, that's because I had time to think before I could respond to your...
That's so true.
Yeah. Now it's like, you're in my face, you have something you have to say now, and I'm like, meh, 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 meh.
Yeah, and then I meh, meh, meh back.
Yeah, true.
We both have very slick mouths. We've grown a lot, but like because of like I think the history and like knowing each other like before we did all that growing and while we did all that growing, we know the right buttons to push to get us to go like right back to that like, yeah, we could still do this type of.
Make sure that you know the person before you involve yourself in a relationship. Get to know them. Enjoy the friendship first, and get to know them, how they are in the friendship setting. Pay attention to how they're treating other people, and then figure out for yourself, not for anybody else, for yourself, if this is an area that you want to involve yourself in. And if it is, stand by it. If it's not, then that's okay too.
And that's the gift that both Marshall and I got to experience before even getting into a relationship with each other, is seeing how each other moved and the impact that he had on my life, the impact I had on his life, the true respect that was there. If he had acted any other way, I probably would have never wrote him, you know? So it's a true testament of his character as a person. The person I saw when I worked in the DOC is the person I'm married to. And it's beautiful to see that he's always been the same, and I've only just seen him grow into even more of a beautiful man than who he was when I met him in 2019.
1 minute remaining.
He did get his ankle monitor put on, and he was released from the halfway house to my apartment. Immediately he found a way to take the ankle monitor off. I was like, there's no talking to this man. There's no negotiating with him. He's gonna do whatever he wants, whenever he wants. I was full of shame. I was pissed off. I obviously didn't want to tell my friends or family because I just talked this man up for 3 years, and they all supported him and supported me in my decisions. And I just made a horrible decision. I chose the wrong person to devote all of this energy and love to. What do you do?
No, this person is coming from a different world. This person questions everything about themselves. Are you willing to listen? And are you willing to know that's coming?
That was something when she first got out, she was used to the structure of everything she did. She was told when to do it, what time, and everything. And having the freedoms of making the decision for herself. What do you think? It's like, what do you want? What do you think? And it took a while for her to kind of shake that off.
I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah.
Really? I didn't know that.
We are all going to change, whether we are with a mate that's right here or not right here. You know, are you willing to do what it takes to make this work? And, you know, you have to put in the work in order to spend that quality time, find out what's important to that person that you say you love and want to be with, and, you know, start to tend to those types of things. You know, make plans and goals for each other and with each other. It's a part of building. So it's a mental build that'll happen later, but you doing the groundwork. And it may not even happen like that, but the whole fact that you've talked about these things is putting you in a framework of being able to talk about other things once that person is home.
The name of my therapy practice is Transcendent Hope, because I believe that hope transcends facts. And so hope, if you have a little bit of it, that is a benefit, because you are not stuck. Some people have never been in the practice of taking care of themselves first. They just don't know how to do it. But people have this misconstrued idea that if I gift myself to this person completely, then they have no other space but to love me back. I mean, I would love me if I was doing all this for me. And in turn, it just ends up not being the case, and that thing turns on them.
Once he was home, that was different, because it was no longer committing to the process. It was choosing to live and breathe in a horrible living situation. I was miserable, and I was treated extremely poorly. And every second he could, he was just drinking, and it was running away. It was work, TikTok, alcohol. And then soon that began to be proven that it was also other women. I really took on a mother role, and again, I take accountability for that. That's not something I will ever do again. I was an enabler to him, and I didn't have any resources or any wherewithal in order to shift that and make it healthy or sustainable.
He hunted all his life. None of the hunting rifles and shotguns that were left to him by his dad can be in our home. He had a hobby that he enjoyed and still enjoys, but can't do in our home, and that's turning honey into mead, because it's an alcoholic beverage. Alcohol had nothing to do with, but that can't be done in our home. And would I have changed anything? It's hard to say yes, because I recognize how much I took for granted. That I don't take for granted anymore. The sun's brighter. The air is crisper. The sky is bluer, and has been since the day I came home. And I love him deeper So would I lose that? I couldn't risk that.
It's an old philosophy that, you make yourself better by making others better. And that's how everybody grows. And if something doesn't change, it's dead. So you have to keep working forward on things. Supporting her is, making myself better in a sense too.
The support is super huge. When you're going through that transition, it's that voice, the same person who helped you when you were in the midst of that madness while you were locked up. She's still there for me. She hasn't changed in any way, and she's still kind of guiding me through when I came home. It sucked in the moment, man, but we're doing great right now. We talk about it all the time. We have a badass life. We have a dope ass life. We're doing great. Our relationship is great. We have cool ass kids. We're doing good. All of that was needed. I think it was.
I think people are shocked that we have a family, that we're sober, that we're giving back to our community all the time.
I'm incredibly proud of her. She has done a lot in the short amount of time that she's gone out, and she's consistently changing to improve herself. And then, she's a very impatient person with a lot of patience, because, I'm not an easy person to deal with or get along. I'm really
where am I?
Like the fact that she's still here and willing to change, and not always right at first, but she's willing eventually. And the fact that she's just still in this career and still persevering and still headbutting the man in the head, no matter what, I'm going to be in these spaces. You're not going to kick me out of these spaces. No matter how discouraging it may be, time after time after time, and she gets back up and just headbutts him again.
Yeah, I'm proud of us. Mm-hmm.
My biggest thing is my relationship with God. This has really helped me cling to Him in a way that I've never clung before. And that's something that Marshall's always helped me with, is leading me to the feet of the Father. And I can't say that this would work without God in it, because we are wrapped around Him and God put us together. There's no way this would have happened. I would have never written him if God wasn't part of my life. And it is amazing to see what He put together, and that brings me great peace. It brings Marshall great peace, and it helps us get through the trials that we experience, because it isn't easy. This isn't easy, but it is worth it. It's completely worth it.
If my kids came to me and wanted to talk about their interest in dating someone who's about to go to prison, because it's different angles, so let's start with that one. Are they good to my kid? Do they treat them well? Are they good people? Are they trustworthy people? If they're a trash person, then definitely don't take this ride with them. They were trash anyway, you shouldn't be with them. But if it's a good person, what's going on? Are they learning from this? Are they gonna come out and be in the same position? What are we looking at here? Now, my view on that changes significantly if they don't know the person. And I'm sorry to say it, but hell no, I don't think that they should start dating someone that they met while that someone was locked up. You don't know them. You don't know them. Are you even seeing the genuine person here? Because they don't know you either. How can you really, really get to know someone? I think you can continue to know someone if you already knew them before they got locked up. But I don't feel you can truly get to know someone while they're locked up on a romantic level.
Weirdly enough, our oldest daughter did date someone that was incarcerated. I didn't like it. Some of the people mean exactly what they say. Some of them will say whatever it takes to get whatever they want. And when their game is really strong, you don't know the difference. So I knew my husband before he was incarcerated, which is the only reason why I was comfortable with that relationship. Had I not known him and had he not changed, we wouldn't be together. But my daughter knew someone before he was incarcerated. They had went to school together, and she felt comfortable, and she felt like, oh, Mama, it worked for you. You're so happy. It's a toss for me, and I do, God forbid, that one of my kids go to prison, but I would not be objective to them having a relationship with someone that's free. Maybe going through the whole process of marriage would be a little bit, because it takes a whole lot of sacrifice, to be in these long relationships. 23 years is a long time. And these sacrifices are real, and you have to deny a part of yourself. Everybody does not have the ability to do that, and so it's not for everybody.
Because I asked her, when she continued to be persistent and stand with me, why? She said the heart wants what the heart wants. So if that's the case, I think it's frivolous to try to fight against that. If my child is pursuing what their heart wants, I can stand against it if I want to, but they still gonna try anyway. So it's gonna be a lesson that might be successful, it might fail, and I gotta be there for them.
Knowing someone for 2 months and then doing 3-year sentence with someone, why would you do that? So I let my heart lead, and I did not listen to anyone, and I probably wouldn't have listened to anyone even if I redid it again. And I could still say hundreds of amazing things about this man to this day, like right now I could, but we did not know each other. Why do we choose to cover relationships this season?
So it all started around the time that a friend of mine who was formerly incarcerated killed himself. And I had been close to him, had a real connection with him. And the conversation started to come quietly around his family life and relationship life as a big part of why he killed himself. And I started talking with more folks about that being a real thing in the space of people coming home from prison, people struggling with their relationships, it being a thing that saves them or things that makes them kind of go back. And that awareness made me think about my own situation as well, because at the time I was really going through a variety of struggles in my romantic life. And this is also greatly impacted by your situation as well. So having that happen at the same time, where I came home and in my relationship, I more or less mistreated my partner because I wasn't who I thought I was going to be, right? I wasn't who I really wanted to and believed I was, that type of mistreatment. And I think in your case, having a similar situation where you were with somebody who was inside and they came home, and you had, very similar on the opposite side of that experience with the mistreatment and just the impacts of incarceration in a relationship. And thinking about that and kind of how it was so common, it was messing with my mind, because I'm pretty competent. I'm pretty quick to learn things in like any area of life. And that was kind of what has been a big part of my reentry experience so far, right? Has been doing these various things and figuring it out. But in my romantic life, I was just not figuring it out. It wasn't making sense to me. And especially, again, I told myself for so long that I was a romantic, right? I genuinely believed that. I had things I've written and things I've said. It wasn't something I was just pitching. And one day I realized that I went in at 19 and I got out at 36. And I never had an opportunity to learn things in relationships, that kind of muscle that people learn in their 20s. And in some cases, as I'm seeing, people still learning in their 40s and 50s. So it wasn't just me, of course, but I am the equivalent right now of an early 20-year-old when it comes to my relationship dating years. And I also struggle with the obligation aspect. And I'm a person that's incredibly driven and influenced by a sense of obligation. And you can't let that be something that dictates the decisions you make, especially in a relationship. And it just was a point where it got for me to accept that the feeling of embarrassment and disappointment that I had, if I was ever going to be of use to anyone in a relationship, that I had to do away with that. I had to accept like my failings, and I had to navigate to a space where I was better for people. But ultimately, I think what I kind of came away from all this is that relationships are risks. There's, no matter what, you're looking at the odds. It's not a matter of love and desires and etc. It's a matter of, is a person who they say they are? Is a person going to be who they think they are? And are they going to be able to do what they believe and promise you that they can do? And the question is, how does incarceration and its impact, how does that change the way relationships operate and the success coming away from that for people that are involved? And so I was driven ultimately to address this for those coming home and those with someone inside, to help them both understand what they were getting into, why and where they should feel concerned or be concerned, and how to increase their odds of success.
And so I hope this project achieves that goal.